Hello, my name is Jenna Pecor, and I'm the host of the Faces of Grand Prairie, a community podcast. Today we're having a special event. Grand Prairie is having a runoff for two city council seats that will be held June 5th, 2021. I wanted to host all four candidates on the program so that the public could get to know the candidates a little bit better. Before I begin, let me give you some important information. All candidates were offered 30 minutes to answer the predetermined list of 6 questions that they were given ahead of time. I'm not in normal interview mode as I want candidates as much of an opportunity to answer the questions as possible. Today, I'm presenting the two candidates up for election from District 8, the at-large position. As a bit of election trivia, at-large represents all citizens in Grand Prairie, which means that regardless of the county in which you live, as long as you are a citizen who lives in Grand Prairie and is registered to vote, you can do so in this election. City council seats are in the general election category of elections. They are nonpartisan, meaning candidates do not run and are not elected on partisan party platforms on the ballot. Today we have an incumbent and a challenger. An incumbent is a candidate who is already serving in that elected seat and is seeking re-election. A challenger is another candidate who is also running for the elected seat. Since incumbents' names come first on the ballot when we go to vote, the incumbent will also be presented first today. I will also link both candidates' campaign pages to the episode for your further review. First up, we have Councilman Greg Giessner. Well, hello, Councilman Giessner. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me this morning.
I'm so glad that you had some time to talk to me. So I'm just gonna ask you a few questions and let you tell us a little bit more about what you're running for and all that good stuff. So the first question is, give a little background about yourself and why you are running for city council.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Greg Giessner, currently your Grand Prairie City Council member for the Place 8 at-large district seat. Born and raised here. So proud to call Grand Prairie home. My family has had a long history of giving back to our community in public service, whether it be through local charitable boards, YMCA boards, chambers of commerce, and Rotary clubs. After I graduated Texas Tech, I moved home and joined my family business, and we're in the insurance business. I've been with our business 27 years, and this August we are celebrating 32 years in Grand Prairie, operating our own local business. When I first moved back, one of the first things I did was immediately get involved as part of giving back to the community where I'm allowed to live and earn a living. Joined Rotary Club. We do a lot of charitable events through our Rotary Club, joined the Chamber of Commerce and had the opportunity to serve on the board there, and served as the chairman of the board. And that was a great opportunity to work with other local business leaders and also our municipal government leaders, our mayors and councils, because we had a very good partnership with our city and our chamber and the local businesses. I'm married to my wife, Kelly Giessner, coming up on 24 years, and we've got twin sons, 20 years old, who are in college and also working part-time jobs at a local restaurant. I have always had a passion for local government and in general, and some people say politics. Well, no, I like government, not politics. Politics can sometimes be a show. It sometimes is almost like a cult of personality, just like you see now on American Idol and some of these other reality TV shows. That's not what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is the operations, the management of municipal governments and state governments. I saw that Grand Prairie was so uniquely situated in this Dallas-Fort Worth area. We had for so long been overlooked in terms of development, retail, restaurants, some of our transportation needs that were dependent upon TxDOT, state highway, and county issues. I knew with that available land that we still had that was available for development and the transportation issues that we would need once that development started coming, I wanted to play an active role in helping to guide and lead the city to bring the most highest and best use and quality to development and quality transportation opportunities to our residents. The background I had in business, operating a successful insurance agency, not just selling insurance, but reviewing all types of insurance, whether that be personal and business, gave me a great deal of experience. I had the pleasure of serving on a local bank board, Grand Bank of Texas, and the loan committee for 14 years, and I was chairman of the insurance committee for the bank. So that gave me a very much unique insight into not only financial operations, but the financial dealings of the businesses and the individuals that we were reviewing for their loans. So that gave me a great wealth of experience in development, in finances, and accounting, and bonds, and municipal debt. So I took a chance. I said, I want to serve our city. I want to step that up and be a part of what we had available to bring our city to what I knew it could be, one of the best in the DFW Metroplex. So I filed to run in 2009 and won election. And back then, Mayor Charles England and our council member, Jim Swafford, who was chairman of our finance committee, who recently passed away in December, they both grabbed me and said, you're going to sit on the finance committee. You've got the experience and the knowledge that we're looking for. And that has become my passion. Finances and the operations of a city, that has been my passion since I first got elected in 2009. And that's where I've served as a committee member. And with the passing of Jim Swafford, Mayor Jensen named me the chairman of that committee.
Well, thank you. The next question is, give your top 2 platforms and why you think that they are important to the city.
Well, one of them I just mentioned, it's the financial operations of a city. It's so important to make sure your city is financially healthy, that you protect the residents for the property taxes and the sales taxes that they're paying, and also create additional streams of revenue for the city. So we rely less and less on property taxes. The sales and use tax really generates a lot of revenue to the city that gives us the ability to fund public safety, police and fire, and all the departments that we have here to serve the residents: Parks and Rec, transportation, water, wastewater, our airport. All of those things come together and are operated much just similar to how everybody operates their own businesses. We take a very deep dive into the budget of every department. We monitor it. We make revisions throughout the year based on projections. And a budget is kind of a forward-looking document. So we are always staying on top of that budget to make sure we're in line with what we've set out for ourselves. And we're so very pleased with the operations that we've been able to maintain there. Twice recently, because of how well we've financially managed the city, we've been able to increase property owners' homestead exemption, which puts more money back into the homeowners' pockets on the city portion of their property taxes. 2019 to 2020 budget, we increased that homestead exemption to $5,000, and very pleased to announce the budget year we're in now, 2020 to 2021, we increased that to 10% of the value. Now, most people look at their property tax. They look at the bottom line. Oh my goodness, the appraisal districts, and you being in the real estate industry know the appraisals are going through the roof. Everyone's property taxes are going to be going up. But it's not because the city raised the property tax rate and we did something to combat the increase, at least on the portion we can control. We can only control the city side. We can't control the school district side or the county hospital. So every time we increase the homestead exemption, it helps offset every time we increase the homestead exemption, it helps decrease what the appraisal district did when they came in with your higher values. Also, very proud that we were able to secure 2 additional exemptions, and we continue to do that for our seniors. Anyone 65 or older gets to stack on top of their normal homestead exemption a senior exemption, which reduces their value again by $45,000. And at age 65, they can apply for a senior freeze. So at least the city portion of their valuation will not increase as long as they're living in that home. Though that platform is my most passionate one, making sure the city operates financially well, and we can actually prove it based on the comprehensive annual financial report that we receive from a third-party outside auditor. And when we do have to issue bond debt, just like individuals have a credit rating, municipal governments and state governments have a credit rating on their bonds. We've been able to maintain, even through tough economic times, 2008, 2009 financial crisis, the recent COVID pandemic that struck the whole world, we've been able to maintain our AAA bond ratings. That is our credit rating. That is the highest credit rating a city or a state or a county government can receive. We've been able to maintain those ratings even during those tough economic times, and we've been able to do so without increasing property tax rates. The other platform I have is I want to make sure we continue to monitor, put good ordinances in place to ensure that the remaining land we have left to develop, we bring the highest and best use to this city. Paying attention to the types of development we bring, making sure that the development that does come here meets our standards. So we've got some very, very tough standards. We get some questions about the number of apartment complexes that are coming in, or maybe why a warehouse goes in a certain, why is a warehouse being built in a certain location? We get a lot of questions as council members, and I wanted to make sure we communicated with our residents that we were completely transparent. I went to the city staff and gave them an idea that I wanted to help communicate that even further and even deeper for our residents and make it available to them. And within about a week and a half, our city staff came back with my idea, ready, live on the city website, called Government 101. And that'll be a rotating set of questions and information. That way we can push out that information to our residents so they can have it at their fingertips. So those 2 to 3 things are really my biggest passions, particularly the city financial operations.
Well, thank you for that. So Councilman Giessner, what is something about the position of city council that you feel you know the best?
Once again, my passion, it's city finances. I know most people would fall asleep looking at all the numbers we have to look at and looking at all the operations that we have to look at in terms of accounting and spreadsheets and profit and loss statements. And it's just what I love. I love the fact that we are innovative. We operate very leanly as a city. We operate very conservatively too. You'll hear a lot of people say, I wish the city or a government would operate like my business has to. Well, let me tell you, we do. We monitor every department, which gives us particularly great insight into things that you may not think of: water, wastewater, an airport. We had over 68,000 takeoff and landings at our local municipal airport. That generates revenue to cover the expenses and the operations at the airport. They sell fuel out there. That generates revenue to cover the expenses at the airport. A parks department, not only a parks department, but a gold medal award-winning parks department. Public safety, my goodness, we have the 2 best public safety departments, I think, in the state, quite possibly maybe in the nation. I'm just so proud of our police department. They also are innovative. It's not just a cop anymore or a police officer. These are law enforcement professionals using the latest tools, information, and education, not to police people, not to reign over people, but to help people, to serve people. We have a neighborhood enrichment team that helps maybe properties that aren't being well maintained and taken care of, that become maybe an eyesore and could potentially bring down the value of their surrounding neighbors. We have neighborhood and community policing efforts where our officers are in the communities where they work. They are serving, they are getting to know the residents. We make ourselves available through our police department, and so proud to announce, and Chief Cesny just announced at council this past Tuesday, over the last 10 years, we've had a 48% reduction in our crime. That's all reported crime. And that is not fuzzy math. That is numbers we have to report in the UCR to the FBI. That's every type of crime. So overall, 10-year period, 48% reduction. The other part of that public safety, and I'm also very, very proud of them, is our fire department and EMS, our paramedics. They work day and night, 24/7 through every weather condition imaginable to protect property and lives. And once again, just announced for the 7th year in a row, our EMS service has won the American Heart Association Gold Medal Award. Now, I know you've heard this before, but maybe for some of those that haven't, to do that 100% of the time, can't miss any of the times. Every time a heart attack 911 call comes in, we have to have responded, transported, and that patient has to be on the operating table with a successful stent in place, and their life has to be saved. Our fire department, our paramedics have been able to do that in 7 years in a row, 100% of the time with every 911 call we have for a heart attack. And we've done that with no hospital in our city. That's amazing. Every call that has to go to a hospital, our paramedics are out of service once they've picked up that patient because they have had to leave the city limits. That's another thing we get a lot of requests for. Why don't we have a hospital? It's not for a lack of trying. We would welcome a hospital with open arms. I'm on the board of directors at advisory board down at Methodist Mansfield Hospital. Jim Swafford, our council member that passed away, was on that board, and he was also on the corporate board for the big Dallas Methodist Hospital system. And we have lobbied. We've lobbied Methodist. We would go after Baylor Scott and White, MCA, any hospital that wanted to locate here. And if we could do anything to help facilitate that, we certainly would. Our geographical makeup being long and thin, there's a hospital on just about every portion of our border, north, west, east, south. So the hospital itself has to be the one to decide whether it makes economic sense for them to move here. But that's the thing I know best, just the finances and the municipal operations, setting a budget and making sure we stick to it and making sure we do so conservatively.
Let me unmute myself. I said, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome.
So if you are an incumbent, what is one thing you plan to do better next time if you win? Or if you are newly elected, what is something you'll do differently?
Well, as the incumbent, I need to be better at communicating with the general residents of the city. I'm out at PID board meetings, HOA meetings, Chamber of Commerce meetings, Rotary Club meetings. I'm constantly meeting and speaking with people. But I've come to realize in this social media day and age, not everybody is going to be able to join a Rotary Club or join a Chamber of Commerce. They may not hear me speaking to those large groups, trying to push our message, get our message out and tell our great story that we have to tell. I need to do a better job of utilizing some of those social media platforms to help disseminate the information, especially all the things that we're so very proud of. And also, if we make a mistake, own up to it. I get a lot of phone calls and emails, just like the rest of my fellow council members and the mayor do. I have a local business Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5:30. So I get a lot of walk-in folks that aren't here for insurance. They're here to talk about an issue unannounced, and that's fine, but they'll just walk into the office and I will make time to meet with them. But that's one thing I want to do better. I've started already with the Government 101 idea that I took to the staff, and they made it happen. I wanted to communicate the positive information and really have people stop and think, okay, I've never broken it down before. Let's talk about your water bill. Do you realize for about $5, you can buy 1,000 gallons of water delivered to your home 24/7 and take away that water once you're done using it? So we're providing great service at a very economical price. You know, the average homeowner, and these are averages, everyone's going to have a different estimate, but on an estimated 125 a month or so is about what it costs a citizen on their property taxes to get 24-hour police and fire, streets and roads and traffic signal devices, parks and rec system, an airport that's available for them if they like to fly airplanes or have any interest in any of that. Our transportation, if we've got folks that are 65 or older with our Grand Connection that need assistance getting to the grocery store, getting to their doctors. All of that is a very reasonable price. Most people pay if they haven't cut the cord and still using some type of cable platform or internet cable platform. Some of those folks are paying, $80 to $100 a month just for television. So I think we provide a great deal of benefit for the amount of property taxes that people pay. And I want to communicate that to a greater audience.
Thank you. Okay, if you do not win the election, where will you serve in the city instead?
Right here, like I've always done. Even before I was on the city council, as I mentioned, my family has a long history of service to our community. I'll continue serving on in our Rotary Club, Chamber of Commerce. I have served on a couple of different previous charitable boards. My mother, Angela Giessner, started Lifeline for Families. I'll probably lend my hand to a little bit of that because I know they're always needing volunteers. We'll just keep serving like we always have. This is our town. We're not giving up. We're always going to provide service to our citizens and our residents and our fellow neighbors. That's just what we do.
Thank you. And the last question is, whether you win or lose, what are ways you can personally help get citizens more involved in their community and in local politics?
Just keep meeting with people. You and I've had this discussion. I think school board trustee Stephen Prairie several years ago probably said the same thing I said. Every time I run into somebody at the grocery store or getting the car washed or filling up the car at the gas station, I tell our story and I remind folks we can't do this alone. We need folks that have some time to volunteer. We've got boards and commissions, park board, planning and zoning, animal advisory board for our Prairie Paws. We've got several boards and commissions that we need volunteers. They serve as our liaison, especially on things like the planning and zoning. Developers meet with them first and they pass their recommendations on to the council. So I'll just keep meeting with people. Anytime I'm asked to go meet with folks or provide some updates on what's going on in the city, I'll keep doing that.
Well, I really appreciate your time today, Councilman Giessner, and yes, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It's always such a joy. And I got to tell you, thank you for your involvement in our city. You have really pushed folks to take a look at what's going on, research, investigate it, and take an analytical look at what's going on. If they have a question or a concern, you've even helped point them in the right direction to help find us as council members or the right city departments to get those issues resolved. Such a great advocate for our city and our residents, and really appreciate you doing these interviews. Your podcasts that you do are always a wealth of knowledge, and all the good people that you have on there interviewing them it's very interesting to listen to. And thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Next up, we have candidate Junior Ezeonu. Hello, candidate Ezeonu. How are you today?
I'm well, Miss Pecor. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine. I'm doing just fine. Kind of surprised that it's as chilly outside as it is today, which is interesting.
May in Texas is surprising.
That is very, very true. Very true. Well, I certainly appreciate your time to be on with me today, and I want to give you as much time as possible to answer all the questions so that the citizens can know who you are and get a little bit more information about you. So, the first question I'll ask you is give a little information or give a little background about yourself and why you're running for city council.
For sure. Well, thank you for that question. And I want to first thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on your show today. I listened to the Faces of Grand Prairie, the podcast, a few times, and I was like, I would love to be on one day. And I'm glad to just get that opportunity.
Well, just
I'm
so
glad
you
just to
know,
get that opportunity.
this probably will not be the last time that you're asked. So
Whenever you need me, I'm there. I got you. Well, yeah, just thank you for that. But yeah, just to introduce myself, my name is Junior Ezeonu. I'm actually currently a student at the University of Texas at Arlington studying political science. And by the grace of God, this Friday, I will be graduating from UT Arlington with my Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity and just that education. I've also served as a substitute teacher and a tutor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for the last 2.5 years. I've been blessed to have this opportunity to meet with a lot of children, help them get ahead in school, educate them, and just work with them. Depending on where they come from, some of my students live in South Dallas and Oak Cliff and low-income minority communities. I have students in Mansfield ISD. Some of them are Grand Prairie residents, and these are suburban kids as well. I'm very blessed to have had this opportunity to just work as an educator and help, children get ahead and just understand things that they're lacking. It's been a blessing. So some people will ask me, Junior, why are you running for city council? Are you not too young to run for city council? And I always respond to them that I truly do believe that God puts each and every one of us on this planet to serve our community and to make this world a better place. We are all called to do it in different forms and different fashions. Some of us may do it through education, being teachers, educating the youth, and providing them with a better future. Others of us may do it through working in hospitals as nurses, doctors, pharmacists. Those of them that save people's lives and keep us alive and give us good health care. So I'm very blessed for their service. And I just think that God put me on this planet to do it through good public policy and good public service. This is what I feel like I would dedicate my life to, because I'm a testimony. I'm an example of whenever a community, the country as a whole, invest into the youth and give us a chance to be successful. I'm an immigrant. I was born in Nigeria. Moved here when I was 2, and this country, this community, this city has given me so much, and I believe that it's time to now give back and pay it forward and give others the same opportunities that I was granted. And thank you again for having me on your show.
yes, thank you so much for that. So the second question is, give your top 2 platforms and why you think they're important to the city.
For sure. Well, thank you for that question as well. Top 2 will deal with infrastructure spending, fixing roads, especially those in minority communities that are a bit underserved. Whenever I visit residents there and I speak with them, they tell me that main things that they want to see fixed are streets, whether it's potholes, cracks in their streets that they're trying to avoid as they're driving home from a long day of work. And that's a big priority. And I'm really grateful that we now have a good amount of funding to allocate resources towards that with the $75 million bond proposition that just passed. Another thing is looking at mental health and public health care. So for this last year and a half, we've dealt with this pandemic. Thank God that we made it through. Thank the Lord. But a lot of people are dealing with repercussions as a result of the isolation to stop the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's why I'm a bit advocate for mental health funding. And the city's already doing a pretty good job through the police department with the mental health care there. But a lot of residents just have no idea that these resources are available to them. So a big thing is for us to continue educating, providing that access to information and letting residents know that this stuff is available for you. Don't be afraid to get help. Don't be afraid to ask for these resources, because it's here. The city cares about you. The people in government care about you, and we're all a community. We're all a family, and that's a big thing that I'm going to advocate for, because I know a lot of our residents are hurting, are dealing with a lot, and they need these things to be addressed.
Thank you for that. Okay, so the next question is, what is something about the position of city council that you feel like you know the best?
For sure. I mean, number one thing is the community engagement. I'm so grateful to live in this city, to live in this community. It's a blessing. It's truly a blessing, especially being an immigrant. And I believe that one thing that I can do really well on the city council is to promote the community engagement onto the city municipal government. A municipal city government has the most direct impact on your life. Whenever you have an issue in your neighborhood or your community, who do you contact? Your city council member or your mayor? You don't call up your state representative. You don't call up your United States senator. You call your local leaders, and that's why it's so important to have our communities more engaged. And that's why I'm really grateful, and I thank God for this turnout that we just had in this past May 1st election. I think it's the highest turnout we've had in Grand Prairie history, at least for the last 20 years. It was wonderful, and I was just grateful to see so many people get involved and come out and vote, whether it's volunteering or coming out and voting, and letting your voice be heard. And that's a big thing that I'm going to continue to advocate for and push, and just keep everyone involved and let them know that your voice matters, your vote matters, your involvement in your community matters, whether you are engaging through community service or you're working the polls or you're casting a vote at the ballot box. You have to stay engaged, because if you don't engage yourself in your community, who else will?
That is a great point. Yes. Okay, so if you are an incumbent, what is one thing you plan to do better next time if you win? Or if you are newly elected, what is something that you'll do differently?
First and foremost, I want to thank Council Member Giessner and Wooldridge for their service to the City Council. They've done a great job. I appreciate everything that they've done for our city. They're truly good public servants. So one main thing that I'm going to do is just continue on the good work that they've done, and also just try to involve the community a lot more into city government and let them know what's going on. A big thing that I do is I try to educate, but not just educate, but inform, because I feel when we have more residents that are informed as to what's going on in the political process, especially on the local level, we can now make better decisions and just understand what's going on in our neighborhoods, in our community, in our city. And I have made a YouTube channel where I taught a lot of younger people in my demographic what's going on in state and federal politics. And once elected, and even if I'm not elected, I'm going to continue to inform, especially on the local level, because that local level is so important, but it's the thing that we neglect the most. We got to stay attentive into what's going on in our city government, what's going on in our county, and just make sure we keep our eyes on it, because this has the most direct impact on your day-to-day life. And I'm a big advocate for just informing and educating those in our community and everybody as a whole as to what's going on and how to get involved.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay, if you do not win in the election, where will you serve in the city instead?
I wouldn't mind being on any board of commissions, but not just being on board and commissions. I want to actually be an educator. I want to teach in the city. Hopefully, by God's grace, work at GPISD. Now that I will have my degree this Friday, thank God. But
And
yeah, I would love to be an
congratulations.
educator. So I really appreciate you. But I would love to be an educator for a few years, just to just help kids with education, teach them about things, especially dealing with history and local government, state government, federal government. I'm a big guy when it comes to history and politics and government, as well as math. I can dabble a little bit into math up until algebra 1. After that, I might step back a little. But that's what I'm really about. I would love to be an educator for sure, just to continue what I've been doing.
Thank you. And the last question is, whether you win or lose, what are ways that you can personally help get citizens more involved in their community and in local politics?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Thank you for that question. And it's just continuing to promote that access to information, whether it's creating videos, being on YouTube or on our local channels on Facebook, and just keeping people involved and letting them know this is what's going on. And whether I win or lose, I'm still going to be a very active member in our community. And I'm going to try to be even more active now that I'm done with school and all of that. I'm just going to try to keep everybody that I know, and even those that I don't know, involved through Facebook. I'm really grateful for all these social networking sites that we have that allow us to be more well connected. And you get to meet people that live on the other side of town that you've never met before, where y'all may share similar interests, and everybody wants to know what's going on. So I'm just going to make sure to stay active in city government, whether I'm elected or not, and just keep promoting the access to information and keeping everyone involved in the know as to what's going on in their city government.
Thank you so much. I know that running for any type of elected position is difficult, and it requires a lot of tenacity and a lot of perseverance, and it is intimidating. And I just appreciate that you have put your hat in the ring, and because I know that that's not the easiest thing, and people really don't, they overestimate how difficult it actually can be to even start. It's hard. So I appreciate that. And thank you so much for coming on.
For sure. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And hopefully we can do this one more time.
Yes, thank you. I would like to thank both candidates for being on the program with me today and answering the questions so that our voters can know how they could be more educated about how they'd like to vote in the runoff election. For information about where you can vote and the dates, you can go to the Grand Prairie, City of Grand Prairie website and type in elections, and it will tell you all of the dates and times for early voting and for voting day. For Dallas County voters, you can early vote at the Betty Warmack Library on the south side of town. You can vote at Crosswinds High School or the Randolph Reed Center, which is off Spike Street on the north side of town. In Tarrant County, you can early vote at Asia Times Square. And in Ellis County, you can vote at the elections office in Waxahachie. Early voting starts May 24th and it runs through June 1st. And the regular voting day is June 5th, and you can vote from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on that day. And there is also a full list of all early voting locations on the City of Grand Prairie website. I will also link information to both of our candidates' campaign websites so that you can find out more information about them if you'd like. Thank you so much for being with me, and I really appreciate you taking the time to get to know your local city officials and those who are running for local office. And I encourage you to go vote, and I would encourage you also to tell 5 friends to go vote, so that we can make sure that we are doing our civic duty in our local city elections. Thank you so much, and we appreciate your interest.